What's up, truckers? Tricky Mick here. Hope you're doing well. Hope you've got the shiny sign up, as I like to say. It's that time of the month again where we're going to be going over lease purchase settlements here at Wheeler Trucking as a lease purchase driver. And if you're new to the channel, I am lease purchasing a 2024 Cascadia. We're getting pretty close to 100,000 miles now. Runs with 298 gears, 270-inch wheelbase, where we haul stuff like F750 chassis, bigger transit vans like the high roof, long wheelbase. And the truck's got a DD15 500 horsepower. So not exactly the best setup for fuel efficiency. I'm only getting about 7 miles per gallon, but you know, that's just how it goes. If they had had a different truck available, like let's say the Volvo with the DD14, I probably would have went that way for fuel economy. But you know, I digress. Let's get right into it and check out what's going on here, because this is one of the worst months, and I'm going to start doing them 1 month at a time so that people can kind of get a grasp on like what the whole month is like versus all these little videos where it's like a week here, a week there, and things like that. So if you want to look for a whole year at a time, it'll be much easier to look through a couple of different videos and get an idea of what's going on. All right, so let's get right into it. All right, so to start, the end of November out, basically. Well, this is the pay date of 12/12, but it's the end of November, so that's how I'm gonna be showing it. All right, so to start out, I ran 1,158 miles, and if you're new to the channel, I get 224 a mile for all miles that I run. Empty or loaded, doesn't really matter. So up here, you'll see where it says driver pay 674. I get a split check where I get a settlement from the truck and then I get my driver pay separately. So I'll show why that's important here in a little bit. And I also get on that W-2 401k and healthcare benefits, things like that. And there's a few reasons that they do this. In my opinion, it's really a legal issue to where no one can come back and say you misclassified me. So you know, I think that's really what they're trying to avoid. All right, so for this week, ran 1,158 miles, and you can see up here, you know, what the fuel surcharge was, total pay, things like that. This total pay doesn't really matter too much because it doesn't exactly show what you made for the week. All right, so I got driver pay of 674, and then after the truck payment of 768, repair fund is 450 a week until fully funded at 30,000, and lease purchase insurance of 124. Then obviously you have fuel and my truck wash for the week. All right, so that left us with 591 and the driver pay of 674, which was 1266.38 for the week, which gives us $1.09 per mile profit. And honestly, that's not the worst case scenario for a lot of these lease purchases, because if you look at, and I'm not throwing any company really under the bus because I understand why they do it, but like, let's just take an example of like Crete Carrier. You can go on their website and check out that, you know, they only pay their owners like $1.09, $1.10 per mile to do, I think flatbed it is, or reefer. I don't know, I have to double check. But anyways, so I'm actually making on one of my worst weeks more per mile than they pay their drivers, and they pay their drivers, the owners, like $1.09, $1.10 per mile, and that's loaded. Their empty pay is like 80 cents a mile. So you know, you really have to look into some of these other lease purchases and decide if it's right for you. I mean, obviously, if you can go out and buy your own truck, that's the absolute best way to do it. But for some of us, it's a little bit harder. You know, I've got 3 kids. I can't just pull $60,000, you know, out of my rear end to be able to just go and buy a truck. Now, doing like I'm doing now, I'm getting on the right track. I'm going to be able to do that next year. And I'm probably going to go to Volvo and have them build a truck that I want. But anyways, let's get into the next month and kind of look. This is a better week. I ran 3,481 miles. The driver pay was $2,027, and then you can look here after all the expenses, you know, truck payment, repair, maintenance, lease purchase, and fuel. You know, left with 4,124. So that 4,124 plus the driver pay of 2,027 gives me 6,152.11 for the week, which is $1.76 per mile. Now we're looking real good. This week could have been a little bit better, but you know, this is December, so I'm hammering down trying to get every mile possible, and that's how I got this particular trip done. Now let's look here into the next week. All right, 2,121 miles. I did a lot of little piddly runs here, short run, you know, a couple of stops. Didn't really want to, but you know, it's better than sitting around and doing nothing. And then so for this week, I was looking at driver pay of $12.35 plus truck pay of $16.50. $1,258, which gives us about $28.93 for the week, or $1.36 per mile profit. Now here's the worst week, and this is just what happens every couple of times a year, especially January, February is our slow period. But again, overall, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at, and you're always going to have slow months in any industry. Ours just happens to be December and January because, all of the union companies are shutting down to, shut down for the holiday, basically. I'm not sure exactly what they do. Usually they shut down and, clean machines, things like that. Vac trucks come in and, suck out old coolant, things like that. All right, so for this week, I only ran 370 miles. I was getting home for Christmas, and that's why that happened. Obviously, I'm going in negative for the next week of about 821, but, it kind of evens out for the month. Now, so if you take all 4 of these weeks, that 1266, 6152, 2893, and then I also had the driver pay this week of 215, and you take that negative 821 out, that gives me 9,705 for a bad month, which, again, not too terrible if you ask me when it comes to getting an entire week off for Christmas, basically, and we've been down a little bit here and there. So, again, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at, and I can't really complain too much. Like I said, I would prefer a different truck that's a little bit better on fuel, because it is hard to get good fuel efficiency in this truck unless you're willing to go absolutely ridiculously slow, and you can't really afford to do that when you're trying to make truck payments and get things paid off. Once you get past that like 2,500, 2,800 miles for the week, that's when you're going to have that higher profit of $1.70 a mile, $2.10 a mile, and I've had them weeks. But again, I had to push super hard to make sure that I got the loads off, and they had to be the right loads. If we haul, let's say Isuzus, the big like the big chassis that become fire trucks and things like that, well, we put 2 on forward, and the 3rd one has to go on in reverse to get it on there. So you have a giant wind sail, and you're just absolutely not going to get any kind of fuel efficiency unless you're doing like 52 miles an hour. So there's no sense in doing 52 when you're doing 70. You're only losing, maybe a mile per gallon, because it's the giant wind sail in the back that's killing your fuel mileage, not the speed. And that's different depending on what you're doing. Flat land is, a lot different than going up and down hills. The different loads, different weights, things like that. You got to really figure out where that sweet spot is, where it's worth it to slow down or not. And again, if you wanted to have this fuel surcharge completely pay for fuel, then you're going to have to get about 10 miles a gallon or so, and that's just not realistic unless you have the absolute perfect truck, which is why I'm looking into Volvo with their DT14 transmission and the D13 TC engine. It's a good combo for fuel efficiency. I know guys getting 9 to 10 miles a gallon all the time in those. But anyways, like I said, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. I want to show people, a month at a time, so you can go back and look at these videos and look at, 6 months with 6 videos instead of, 24 videos. Make it a lot easier. All right, well, I'm Tricky Mick. Keep the shiny side up. Let me know in the comments what you think. Did I make a mistake by getting into lease purchase? Do you think I should go and, get my own truck ASAP? What would you do if you were in my situation? Well, I'll catch you guys next time. Keep the shiny side up.